Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast with Jesse, Heater, and MJ. In this week's episode, we will be discussing Netflix's 13th film, the 2016 historical drama war film, The Siege of Jadotville. Directed by Richie Smyth, starring Jamie Dornan, Mark Strong, Mikael Persbrandt, Jason O'Mara, and Danny Sapani. Good afternoon, boys.
Good afternoon.
G'day, boys.
Feels like it's been such a long time since last episode.
It's been a long week. It
has been a long week.
Long break, but it's so good to see you guys again.
Always good.
I think we're all pretty excited to be together again, and we're looking at this war film today, which we'll see how we go.
Second war film, Netflix.
Second for after Beasts, and we've got this one here, obviously.
I'm liking the ratio of war films already.
So far, 2 out of 15?
Yeah.
13. Sorry, bad with numbers.
Pretty good.
So, we're going to kick off with our fast flicks around the table. Each presenter is going to do a quick 30-second summary of their thoughts of the film, and we'll kick off with Heater.
All right, mate. In 1961 Congo, the film portrays an Irish peacekeeping troop's efforts to hold the mining town of Jadotville against French and Belgian mercenaries.
Good. Cool. Short and sweet. Love it.
Wish I would have known more of that, actually, when I was watching it.
All right, I'll go next. So, I've gone with the UN interfere in an internal conflict in Congo, mainly because of the country's holding world power in 1961. They send a group of neutral Irish soldiers to hold down the town of Jadotville. Over a few days, they overcome extreme odds to hold their ground. MJ.
Cool. A somewhat inspiring war story that probably falls under the category of I guess you had to be there to really appreciate its significance. A coherent enough narrative but misfires with its inability to build any connection with its characters.
Ooh, pretty rough straight off.
Jeez, what a whack.
Excuse me, how is that a whack? I've said it's somewhat inspiring.
Somewhat.
Yeah, so I said it was coherent enough.
Coherent, that's another whack.
And obviously, you know, if you could tell me any characters' names apart from Jamie Dornan's character, I'll be pleased.
All right, so that's I'm gonna start off with a bit of
comment too.
No, I'm gonna start off with a disclaimer. So as we go through this episode, like MJ just said, the characters. So I'm just gonna nickname them. So I'm gonna call Jamie, because that's his name in real life. I'm just gonna call the other guy Mark Strong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the other guy Roose Bolton.
Good.
And then we're going to call the guy in the white suit, Colonel Sanders.
Okay.
So they're, as we go through, that's how I'm going to call the characters because I've got no idea what they're called.
No, you don't even know what their names are.
Well, 3 of those 4 I would have called the exact same. So, yeah, that's all good with me.
Because seriously, I didn't care about any of these characters.
Jamie Dornan, I've forgot it now, but his character's name
is Quinlan.
Quinlan, yeah. So that one I knew. Like,
Quinlan.
they did use Quinlan.
You knew
quite
his
a bit.
name.
Yeah, they did.
If you watched the movie, you knew his name.
Yeah.
I did watch the film, thank you very much, but I just thought, hey, it's Jamie. I'm going to call him Jamie.
I'm happy. I like Jamie.
Mark Strong definitely was in my thoughts as always just Mark Strong.
He's Mark Strong, and there was Roose Bolton as well.
So good, I'm glad we've got that out of the way. Yeah. So what have we got about this film? Give us, Heater, you're usually good with these little facts.
Oh, look, it won some awards. Which
Really?
I got a bit confused about. I'm not sure if you guys saw the awards it won on IMDb.
Mainly Irish Film Awards.
So it won 4 awards at the Irish Film and Television Awards. On IMDb it's listed as 4 awards. It's the best director, the best visual effects, and then really confusing, Jason O'Mara, who played basically the 2IC to Jamie Dornan, he won Best Supporting Actor Film. And it also says he won Best Actor in a Supporting Role Film.
I feel like that's the same.
I feel like that's the exact same award. I'm not sure if it was incorrectly listed twice or they had 2 separate awards.
They have those two sections that are really similar.
It seemed really weird that they're the exact same award, but it says he won 2 awards for this.
And so would you say that was the Irish?
The Irish Film and Television Awards.
And it was nominated for 7 awards overall.
I think so, yeah.
So that's a fair chunk. Maybe the Irish film industry didn't have much going in 2016.
Oh, well deserved.
To be honest, I wouldn't have said I've seen too many Irish films, to be frank. So I don't have much of a basis of how big those awards have been.
I watched a lot of movies set in Ireland, but they're all kind of American-made movies set in Ireland. There's not many. I would have thought.
You're thinking of P.S. I Love You as well, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
I'm thinking more the IRA films.
It's based on a non-fiction book, The Siege of Jadotville, the Irish Army's Forgotten Battle.
Yep.
And it obviously is pretty much a retelling of that book, I'm guessing. I haven't read the book, but...
I haven't read the book either, but I would assume it's pretty loosely based. It's kind of all based on a true story, so...
and the actors were put through sort of a training camp in South Africa before they started
Yeah,
filming.
military training, make sure they
cool.
they all looked good. I think I saw the director say something like, "There's nothing worse than seeing an actor carrying a gun up a flight of stairs and he's got no idea how to hold a gun." So they want him to kind of look like they knew what they were doing.
Do you reckon Jamie Dornan went through that similar training with 50 Shades of Grey? I
bet he hopes
put
he
him
did.
through his paces and go, we really need you to understand this role.
I'm sure he hopes he did.
I'm not going to comment because I can't keep that clean.
I think as part of the that military training, they put Jamie Dornan in charge of everyone for a few weeks, just so he had that kind of commandant role in his mind, and like the guys were used to him ordering everyone around.
No, good. Rotten Tomatoes, 60%, only based off 10 reviews. So I think that's still classified as fresh.
So 3.3 stars on Letterboxd.
That's the big one.
Letterboxd is the way to go. So there's about 3,000 ratings on Letterboxd I counted.
I think that was roughly about the same on IMDb. It was a 7.3 out of 10 from the IMDb.
7.3 out of 10. Whew.
That's particularly high.
Which is, what's that Letterboxd make it to be? 6.6 out of 10. So probably averages out to about a 7 out of 10 then, of those two.
Yeah, good. So this film had the premiere at the Galway Film Festival, Ireland's leading film festival. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And then it had a short run in cinemas across Ireland, I think, in September 2016 before it was dropped on Netflix in October. So obviously they knew their target audience and pumped it into the cinemas there.
In Ireland.
I would have thought the target would be the Irish audience because the story that's kind of, was not really portrayed when it happened to, I guess, all the Irish people, and it's only come out now, I think, only recently, kind of the true story of it all. So it's targeted at them, and I guess they're heroes.
Because they were condemned, weren't they?
They were.
The final scene or whatever they
shows, yeah, they were called kind of
cowards,
and they tried to kind of keep it pretty hush. I think only in the last 10 years that they've been regarded as heroes and been given like their medals and awards for their duty.
Good. So I think we briefly mentioned before they were trained. So it was filmed in South Africa.
Yeah.
So you can probably tell from a lot of the scenery that they obviously went on location to film a lot of that sort of stuff. And I'll probably talk a little bit about some of those shots later on.
Yep.
Have you got anything else that we found interesting about this film?
Some of the actual machine guns, the Gustav machine guns that were used in the film, were the same guns that they used in the actual conflict.
Oh.
Back in the 60s, I think they were able to authenticate them by the serial numbers. But yeah, they were actually able to use those guns as the props in the movie, which is pretty cool.
That's real cool.
Real cool. Also, I saw that one of the actors in the movie, the guy who, when they're in kind of the bunker, I think in the very first battle scene, he says, Quinlan doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to get us killed. He's actually the real life grandson of the real Commander Pat Quinlan.
I did say he plays PJ.
PJ, yeah.
So I don't know who PJ is, but he played
he's
PJ.
the guy that says Quinlan doesn't know what he's doing. So they gave him that role about he's his real grandfather.
I felt there were a lot of people in this film that were telling him he didn't know what he was doing.
Hey, but they gave him almost the "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
Yeah.
That was the idea, kind of. We can talk about that
Bit later
in there, yeah.
So what else do we dislike about anything or the characters in this film? I think we've touched on this a little bit.
I like Jamie Dornan's character.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot.
Not only the character, I thought he was
great.
He hit it for 6. So he was far and away the best thing about this film.
Have you guys seen much of Jamie Dornan before this?
I have seen 50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey?
I don't reckon I've seen much more.
Yeah.
If you tell me something else he's been in, I've probably seen
Well, he's obviously most famous for 50 Shades of Grey. I haven't seen that, but I know him from the TV show The Fall.
Yep.
Which is it's a British TV show on Netflix where he plays basically a psychopathic serial killer, and he's fantastic in it. So that was the only kind of thing I'd seen him before this, and he was brilliant. And seeing him in this as well, I'm like, yep, he was really good again.
Does he rock a mustache in that? Because that's a
He
great
doesn't.
mustache.
That is a great. I've actually got that written down.
Is it?
Great mustache.
That's a really good mustache.
It is a really good one. Yeah.
I didn't know he was Irish until this film. So when he started speaking for the first time Irish, I'm like, obviously he's an Irish character. And then I checked. I'm like, no, he's actually Irish.
He's Irish.
I didn't even know that.
He's Irish in the Fall, the TV show mentioned as well.
I couldn't put a finger on any of these characters to say that I liked any of them, to be honest. I thought there was no development in any of the characters, and even the development of Jamie's character was literally just like, oh, he's got a wife and that's it.
Yeah, that's one thing I noted as well. I'm like, I think they really wanted you to care more about his backstory, but his backstory was, yeah, he's got a wife, and they seemed to get on really well when they had that little dance the night before he left. There was kind of
Nicole's there as well.
He
Just to kind of make it seem like he's still a family man kind of thing.
Yeah, even the call to her felt sort of strained as well. Not that there was anything wrong with the relationship, but that's all we knew about him, is that he was married and they'd never been to battle before. And I think that was the problem with all these characters, because we knew nothing about any of them.
No, it's hard to care about any of them when...
The film definitely focused more on the actual siege and kind of what was going on, than rather than you letting him know about
who they are.
The characters and who was actually fighting. Was more about the fight itself and kind of the background as to why it was happening without really delving deep into who's going to be part of this.
Yeah, which is, I think that's a missed opportunity with filmmaking, to build an affinity with your audience and do that through the characters. That certainly made things less interesting for me to watch when I just didn't care or know anything about them. They were fine. They seemed likeable enough, but as I said, I can't tell you their names.
Yeah, all right, so the actors, directors, we spoke a bit about Jamie's previous work. What about the director? I thought there's some interesting stuff here about him.
Yeah, the director. So it was his first feature film. He's previously done a lot of music videos, mainly U2 and The Verve music videos.
I think he did a Bon Jovi clip as well. Yeah, how did you miss out on Bon Jovi?
I saw he did. It said he'd done a Bon Jovi one. I couldn't find which one it was though. Do you know which one it was?
No, I think we all just read this off the IMDb trivia.
Yeah, so I actually went through. I was looking at all the different U2 songs and Verve he did, and it said he did Bon Jovi, and I couldn't find a credit as to which one it was, which is the big one for me. It's one of my favourite bands. I'm like, which one was it?
But he was also a fashion and advertising photographer.
Yeah.
Well done to make the shift to film.
He's done well.
Yeah. And apparently respected as well, so that's the key word there, I think. He's respected across Ireland, which is good.
What about the writer? Have you seen much of the writer's previous work?
No, fill us in.
I think the big ones that I know, kind of the more famous Hollywood ones, were The Glimmer Man, Constantine, the Keanu Reeves one, and Mindhunters. I've seen Mindhunters. I like that movie. I've actually seen that a few times. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Good. Could you see any other actors better for these roles?
Well, the roles weren't really fleshed out enough.
I mean, probably not. I think that Mark Strong and Bruce Bolton, they play that kind of authoritarian figure in a film pretty well, I thought they're pretty good choices for kind of the higher up people. I just kind of always just think of them as kind of authoritarian figures, so I thought they were good. I'm really not sure who else you would really...
I was thinking, seeing as he's
some thoughts?
Well, I thought, seeing as he's got such a good relationship with you two, maybe get Bono on the edge and they could play the two main characters and got that Irish undertone there.
I thought Mark Strong was terrible for this role. To me, nothing felt natural about him in it. And I don't know if it was his hair.
Was it his hair? Was it his toupee or wig, whatever it was?
That was actually one of my IMDb's, was to try and find more photos of Mark Strong with hair, because it looked so weird.
It looked awful. It looked really bad.
I just felt like he didn't fit this role at all. Like, Mark Strong was a great action guy, and he does really cool roles, and this one felt just I felt like he was like a jigsaw piece trying to fit into a puzzle that didn't quite fit. Like, we've got Mark Strong. I was like, I don't roll for him. It's like, just give him a role. We've got Mark Strong. He wants to do this film. And I think there was that scene where he yells at the guy to get out of his office, and it's like, nothing about this I believed. Like, I felt like he was really forcing every single scene he was in. So I would have liked to have someone else play that role. But Mark Strong's a great actor. I just don't think the role was for him at all.
So let's talk about some of the scenes. What is there? Tell us what stood out. What were some good scenes that you really liked?
Do you want me to start?
Yes, Heath, I do.
Well, I'm obviously, a big war film fan, so the battle scenes were awesome.
Yeah, I think the battle scenes were something that were done really well in the film.
Do you want me to go through the ones that I thought a lot of the sound during the battles was really good. They do it well, where they kind of quieten and muffle the shouting around it, so the gunshots are really loud. They're kind of in your face. Quite a few headshot scenes were really great. I thought they were done really well. The scene where Quinlan gets shot, he gets shot and the music just goes nuts and builds. I really enjoyed that scene.
That was my bad scene.
Yeah, me
Oh, you didn't like that?
Me too. That's in my forgettable scenes. I thought that music was completely not right for that scene.
Alright, well, I love that scene.
They tried to make it like it was this big thing. When he got shot, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't see this coming. He got shot, and then like a minute later, it's like, oh, he's fine. Like, it's not even a big deal.
Maybe after that wasn't good, but I just love the shot and then the music shot afterwards.
I thought the music was completely not the right tone. Like, it was just... good.
Was.
Okay, so
the sniper shot was awesome. I really like kind of the sniper shot in the film. You're seeing he's loading the rifle, you hear the sound of the bullet going in the chamber, he's focusing, the music starts building, pulls the trigger.
Colonel Sanders
and
getting hit, bang.
Yeah, a sniper shot is a pretty kind of common scene in a war film, but you've still got to do it right, and I felt they did do it really well in this one.
Yeah.
To your points, I liked, and these are probably more scenes within a scene that I really enjoyed during the battle scenes were their reactions that they had after that first battle. Because obviously you've got all these war virgins, they've never been there before. And like when the guy gets like cut on the face and he's like hysterical, like he's like, I've been shot. It's like, no, you just got cut on the face. And like they all think that all these bad things are happening when it's not that bad, but at the end of it, they just that realization that, oh my god, this is real. Like, we're literally getting shot at. Yeah, I thought that was really good, and just that them sitting in the trenches just in silence was a really nice change of pace. It was only like 15 seconds, but I really enjoyed that. I thought they did that really well.
Yeah, like with the talking about the action scenes, I think like Heath said, there were some good body shots and some good explosions, and I thought the helicopter scene coming down with the blades spinning, I thought that was good. Sort of showed that they had a bit of money to spend on this film. Probably the action scene that stood out the most for me is when they're in that church and they ring the bell to say come on out, and I feel like that was some really good camera work there. Like some good tracking shots. The camera was tilted, really shaky to sort of create that mood that no one knows what on earth's going on. I feel like going back to the start of the film, I did like a few of the opening shots where you've got it looked like the savannah. It sort of reminded me of the Lion King almost, where you've got those trees isolated out in the middle of nowhere. But then I felt like they did that too much in the film almost. Like it kept going back every morning. You just see these shots of serenity sort of thing. And I know they were trying to create that, horrible war sort of situation, but I think they overused that a little bit. I did, and the start as well. I feel like the overlay where they had the introduction of the Cold War with the globe going around with the text. It's like a good idea good for people that have little background knowledge on why people are actually going to the Congo for these sorts of things. I've got a couple more scenes that I thought were good. At the start, the president, he's assassinated right at the start. I really liked where they go, everything that is underneath the earth belongs to all our people. It does not belong to the Belgians, Americans, or you. And I really liked that, and I thought, oh, good, this film might take on this, international intervention, all that sort of stuff. But I felt like that was it. It was just like one fadeaway line. So I did like that, but
all of a sudden the Irish Army, like they really glossed over that. I thought that the Irish Army is all of a sudden just helping out, and I'm like, why the Irish Army? I guess they were this is their first war. They were just trying to intervene, and it was no big deal. But I didn't quite understand why them. And obviously it's a true story, so there's a lot more to it. Yeah. But I thought that was really glossed over. I mean, I still could follow everything, but I didn't quite understand why them.
Yeah, and like and I feel like, we spoke before, it was targeted for Irish. Like, I like the connection they kept making back to Ireland. Like, they had, the Irish music, jig music in the background, a lot of connections to religion and church and those sorts of things. So I feel like it'd be really easy to connect to this.
What a church.
Yeah.
And when they were at the bar, the first thing he said was just, I'll just have a Guinness, thanks.
Yeah, good. And one last thing that I really liked was... Jamie goes into that house to make that phone call back to his wife, and it's that chick he saw from the bar that said, no one's going to like you. And I really liked that she's like, oh, my husband, had uranium poisoning. It's the same uranium that was used on the bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And I was like, that's a cool fact. So I looked it up, and it was true. So I thought that was really... I was like, I need to look this up. And I did, and it was true. So I liked that. That was
about that scene. He says on the phone to his wife, this is the only quote that I wrote down, I think. It's hard to know what's going on here. There are a lot of unknowns. And as an audience member, that's exactly how I felt at that time. I was like, what are you guys doing here? What's happening?
Well, he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's what made me feel good. I'm like, at least I'm on the same page as the lead character.
Is there anything to tell us more?
I've got a few more scenes, unless MJ, you want to jump in?
No, I might wrap up the scene stuff at the end here with a bit of a summary, so you go.
I like the bar scene where you've got Jamie and the leader of kind of the French mercenaries.
Yeah, we'll just call him the French dude.
Yeah.
His name's Fawkes, but I'm not sure if they ever told you that in the film. But we'll call him the French leader. I like when they sat down. He's offering him the cognac. They're exchanging the barbs. You know, this thing about the German tactics invading, and I also like there was a line in there where he asked Jamie, "Do you follow all orders?" And Jamie just nods. "I'm a soldier. It's how it's done." It's a good line. I like that line. I also like the scene at the end, which I think MJ you mentioned before, with kind of the salute to Jamie. It's a pretty cliched scene, but I mean, it was kind of, I think it was the way that they showed at the start how a lot of the guys weren't really confident in Jamie, because obviously he'd never been in the war. I think they saw him as a bit soft. They weren't really kind of behind him and questioned if he should have been the leader, and then to show him that respect at the end, I really liked that scene. I thought it
up well. That's a good point. They the scene with the French guy in the bar, I really enjoyed that scene as well. At that point I didn't know who the enemy was, and I didn't know who they were going to be fighting. When I saw a French guy there chatting, I was like, this guy just felt like a wily kind of war veteran. And then when we saw him on the battlefield, I was like, hang on, do you just like have a beer with your enemy? Is that how it works here? Like I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, it caught me off guard.
I'm gonna say it kind of felt like, I guess they weren't kind of two countries fighting against each other. Like these mercenaries these mercenaries were hired to come in and take it. These guys are UN peacekeeping that came in, so they're not real like. They're not. I guess they're only enemies because they've been hired. Like
I feel like at that bar scene as well, they hadn't had that because after that we saw like the scene where he's going across the bridge and all the soldiers there. I don't think that had that message to attack yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at the moment they're just there's kind of like a bunch of guys that they know how. At some point we might need a fight, but we haven't engaged yet. We're just a bunch of guys. I mean, you can tell, I guess, like the tone of the scene. There's all everyone's kind of big, but
it didn't bother me. I really liked that scene. Yeah. I quite liked that character too. The thing that got me with the film in general.
Oh, hello. We're ringing. That's good.
Do you want me to answer? It's an unknown number as well.
Oh, mate, put on silent.
The thing that got me, and I think this is, I guess, talking about the scenes, but also just talking about the film in general that really bothered me was there's 3 battle scenes, right? Every battle scene to me just felt the same. Like they were attacked, nothing really important happened, no one from the Irish army got killed. And then they held them off for a little bit, and then the other guys retreated. And that was the film. The crux of the film for me was that happening again and again and again. By the end of it, I'm like, are we just doing this again? And that was what got me. And I think that gets to the point where, and this is probably the way I see this film as, it was obviously a really important battle in the context of everything else going on. I just don't think it translated into a film. I think that it was a really cool story that would have worked really nice as a 45-minute documentary telling you what happened. Yep. But when you're trying to build an emotional narrative around it, it didn't work. And that was what got me. I just felt like I'm just watching this stuff that's happening that I didn't know anything about. They didn't make me care about it enough. And that's probably my biggest gripe with the film. It was just like, yeah, okay, cool. Thanks for showing me that. But it's not going to stick with me. I don't know. Did you feel that way at all?
Does that mean we're heading into things we didn't like about the film?
No, this is, I guess I sort of branched out, but
I feel that, and I get that, and I think that last, and I was going to talk about this a bit later, but I feel like the last one I sort of thought, hey, maybe they're not going to get out of this. The last one I felt that, but then I get what you're saying, that it was. I didn't know before the film that they all got out at the end.
No, neither did I. Yeah. But I also wasn't too fast. And that was another thing. I didn't know what their options were.
Yeah.
They kept fighting, right? And I'm like, so what is the option? What are they hoping for? Obviously, they want more troops. So that's not.
They wanted
what's the way out? And then when they surrendered, I was like, oh, that's not a bad result. Like, I didn't know that was an option. Like, that's a good result. Yeah.
Well, I guess that was the thing, kind of after the. I think it was after the first or second battle where the French leader comes up to him and says, you're outnumbered.
Yeah.
I'll accept your surrender. And Jamie says, you're not recognised to accept surrender. It's like, I can't do it. And then I guess it kind of changes when it
got me. I'm like, oh, well, he can't accept surrender. And let's write that one off the
And then it's like, oh, we're out of bullets. Yeah. They're destroying us now. It's either surrender or we're killed.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you did it. But, yeah, I didn't quite know what the...
I thought that was pretty cool when they were out of bullets and they used all the shells to create that explosion. That was pretty cool.
That was cool. That was cool.
That was pretty cool. All right.
It reminded me of, and this is going to be controversial because this was obviously an Oscar-nominated film, but when I watched The Founder, it felt like, cool, this is a cool story that I wouldn't mind reading a feature article of. But it didn't translate to being a movie. It was just this interesting story that happened, but you never engage, you never get the stake, and that's what got me with this film as well. Cool story, but it didn't need to be an hour and a half film.
Well, all right, I'm going to start talking about some things that really got to me a little bit. So the conclusion of the film, right at the end, I don't know, I've heard this multiple times, but voiceovers are like the lazy way out in filmmaking.
That came out of nowhere, didn't it? There was no other voiceovers in the film, was it?
No, not that I think of. So then right at the end, you've got this montage of them being captured, locked away, and then released. I just thought that was really lazy. Like, you didn't even need a voiceover. You could have just had those visuals with the soundtrack, and then you'd know what's going on. You didn't
getting locked away. You know that they're coming out. Yeah, true.
Didn't need to be specifically saying, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened.
That's right.
So that really got to me. And throughout the film, the emphasis on the soldiers not knowing what they're doing really started to get to me. I thought, you can make a couple of mentions about it, but the snake in that trench, that scene, I was like, that was not needed. Like, we get it. These guys, like we spoke before about the graze across his face. We get that they're freaking out.
Yeah.
But the snake in it, I was just like, oh, come on.
That also gave you a chance to show Jamie Dornan as a bit of a boss. Just rolled in there and grabbed the snake and pulled it out.
So Jamie.
Oh, there you go. We do have a bit of character development. But yeah, like we spoke briefly before, any scene with Jamie and his wife, I thought it was, that dancing scene in the lounge room with that stupid Cupid sort of love song over the top.
That was the only attempt they had at creating a backstory and something for you to care about with him.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay,
yeah.
What are you trying to tell me?
And that, someone mentioned it before, your war virgins. I thought that was like... And then there was this quick cut to this really young-looking guy to be like, oh, here we go. It's really obvious. It's really young. You got no idea what's going on. It's like not needed. Like whoever wrote that dialogue needs a bit of work.
I forgot that was in the film because I wrote it here and I'm like, oh, that was clever of me to think of that. But obviously, I got it from the film.
Another thing that really griped me throughout was you'd get the text on the screen that'd tell you the location where it is, but then sometimes you wouldn't. So some scenes would be like, we're in New York, and then the next one we're in Congo, wherever we are, and then some scenes I'm like, hang on, where the hell are we? Because I was confused.
Yeah, okay, that's bad. I didn't notice that.
That really got to me.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but they should have kept that consistent.
Keep it consistent going throughout the whole film, because they were chopping and changing.
They were, yeah.
A lot of the locations. And then about the 15 minutes in, there was this CGI shot of New York, of what New York looked like in the 60s. It looked like New York City today. I was like, there's not much difference.
They spent all their money on the chopper getting
blown up at the end. Anyone else? I've got heaps more. So someone else, give some airtime to you guys. What didn't you like about it?
I kind of already. Did you have anything you didn't like? I know you realised film, so I know you're.
Look, the big one I wrote was Mark Strong's hair. It was awful. And just I guess as a general, obviously, I thought I really like this movie. The battle scenes were amazing. Apart from the two other scenes I said at the end, every other non-battle scene was a bit meh for me.
Yep.
What are the also the stuff when they're at the siege and Jamie's on the phone with Roose Bolton and even Mark Strong, and what are their arguments and shouting? I guess because I contrast that to all the other war movies that I've watched, and it just sounded like kind of nothing like any other war movie about how they spoke to each other and all that kind of thing, and I just didn't really like those interactions.
I've got that phone call down. It's like it was really soap opera because he's like, "Tell me what I'm supposed to do." And I was like almost laughing. I was like,
I watch a lot of war movies. It just didn't feel real. Their exchanges, so scenes like that,
I think it's got to do with the fact that there just wasn't enough in this story to make it a feature film, and they had to really reach to get there.
And there's just little the dialogue like you're talking about. Some of the dialogue was just. There was this scene where the soldier's like, "Oh, I'm really scared," and Jamie's sitting there going, "Oh, it's only natural to feel this scared," and then it's like, "Oh, I was scared, but now I like it." It's like. You don't need to tell us that. Like
killing people.
Yeah, that's like.
But then that leads into a good one from Jamie after that or something. Where I think where he says it to Jamie, he's like, I think he says, it's only natural or something like that. He's like, but you didn't. like to Jamie, like I think it's another call out to these guys realise that Jamie,
everyone reacts differently. Killing
but I think that the soldiers are kind of like still even they're doing this, that Jamie doesn't like killing, and it's kind of like that's still kind of the guessing of him, I guess, that we can see that you still don't like killing people.
Yeah,
we're in a war with you, and you still don't like it.
And then there's like another scene, one of the scenes where the French backed off, and then like it's really obvious why they'd backed off, and then Jamie's like, "We didn't do that." I was like, "Yeah, that's obvious that you didn't do that. You don't need to tell us you didn't do that. It wasn't you guys that did it. The planes are coming, so back out of the way." There was another scene where there was they were in that truck and they're on their way. They need to start. They're on their way to Jadotville, and there's like this road sign that says so many kilometers away to Jadotville, and then like on the screen pops up the text, "Now at Jadotville." Thanks, we get that.
Just fast forward a little bit, and then we're there.
Hey, you're annoyed that they weren't telling you where we were all the
time.
I
know. Yeah. And then that scene they did, and I was like, "Oh my god!" My product placement update. There was a couple of times where Pepsi Cola was put around the shops in that little town that they were in. Thought that was I was like, "Yeah, rightio, we really need that."
Do you really want your products being spruiked in like a war-torn country in the 60s? Like, you
probably
pay
not.
money for that?
1961 Congo.
Yeah.
Another scene that really got me was Jamie was like really upset, and he goes back to his quarters, and then the camera looks on the bed, and there's like this pile of all these books on war, and it's like all this information. He's obviously sitting there reading, and it's like really obvious that they're telling us again he's got no idea what he's doing because he's reading books on how to be in war.
But they always reference it.
They mentioned that in the bar at the start.
He knew everything about every war.
Yeah, he'd read every book on war there is or something. One of the soldiers says in the early bar scene, because I think he called him something, like a soldier's talking about him and he called him something, and someone said to him, "Hey, he's read every single book on war there is."
But reading books on war doesn't make you like a good soldier, and I just felt like that was another example of them.
He was trying.
Good on him. There was like the when the UN Secretary General gets on that plane to go to the Congo, I was like, this looks like Thunderbirds, like the little plane. It looked like this little like model sort of plane, which was.
Hey, that must have been really big news at the time, yeah.
It would have been,
UN Secretary getting bombed out of the sky.
Yeah.
Apparently, though, I looked up a little bit of stats. Apparently, the information, and apparently that chronologically didn't happen in that order. It wasn't exactly like in that timing.
Yeah.
But
and you don't reckon he fired Mark Strong's character whilst he was
on the air? I don't think that happened. And then the last thing at the end when Mark Strong and Bruce Bolton are standing there and Jamie goes up and whacks him in the face, and then they're like, "Oh, I think you deserve that but Jamie doesn't understand how the world works." It's like, oh, gross. Like,
it's a good punch though.
It was a great punch.
You can get him court-martialed for that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for telling us that. All right, so
he deserved a punch.
He did deserve a punch in the face.
He really did.
What were some of the themes or some of the ideas in this film?
Fighting for survival against the odds.
Yep. David sort of versus Goliath.
Yeah.
It's like overcoming odds, the small guy overcoming the big guy.
Yep.
I think it was also the perspective of like the big wigs versus the soldiers on the ground. These are the guys who are literally in the trenches versus the guys who are in office telling them what they can and can't do. There was a nice perspective on that and critique on that in a war situation.
Yeah. And I think it speaks a little bit about the reality of war as well.
The reality of war. That feels like a Year 12 essay.
It sort of does, doesn't it? It's like, there's violence. Like, even though no one actually dies and it reflects real life, it sort of, shows you the youth and the no preparation and, coming out.
How scared they are. And
yeah, exactly.
It's nuts. Like, you've got this thing in your hand that if you do the right thing, someone else dies. Like, it's crazy.
But I also think, on the other hand, they sort of have this idea of loyalty, friendship, brotherhood, especially amongst the Irish soldiers,
which grew. That wasn't there at the start.
And I think it would have played well with Irish audiences because there's a lot of patriotism and nationalism about we're doing this for our country, even though they go home and get no reception. It's like they're trying to build up that.
Well, that's why I reckon they might have glossed over some of those facts at the start about why the Irish army was all of a sudden there. Because if you're targeting an Irish audience, they're like, "Yeah, this is our story. We know this. You don't need to tell us everything." That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
True. I spoke briefly before. I think they could have gone with colonialization and all these powers taking over African countries, Asian countries, those sorts of things. But I think it was a weak attempt at addressing that. I think because they've got this underlying Cold War tension throughout the whole film and political advancement and those sorts of things. And the veterans returning, maybe it sort of connects with people with ideas of Vietnam as well, how people are coming back and sort of getting that reception that no one really appreciated the work that they actually did. last one. So what does it mean to be a hero as well? So was Jamie a hero? Do you reckon?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. Even though like
He held that siege.
Yeah, I think
and protected all those guys. Or he went all those guys. He got them all home safely.
yeah, and I think that the film was trying to pump up the whole way. This guy can be a hero, even though he may not have experience, may not have the full idea about what's going on.
What he's doing.
Yeah,
and he'll be remembered as a guy that surrendered at war, but he's still a hero.
still a hero.
Yeah, still a hero.
Because he's still got all those men out there without any casualties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No Irish troop died in that, so...
I thought Jamie Dornan was really good. I don't know if we glossed over that. I actually thought he
was
commanded
great.
presence on the screen.
Yeah.
And when he wasn't in a scene, I lost interest.
Yeah. He did what he could with the dialogue that he was given.
Yeah. I thought he really stood out.
I thought it was great, yeah. I thought it was really good.
So what do we take out of the film? Like, what was good about it? What was bad about it? Heater, go. I know you want to talk about this.
Oh, look, I mean, I think we kind of spoken about it in all the scenes. For me, the battle scenes were great. The non-battle scenes were a bit weak.
Yep.
Would you
Nice
have
and
seen-
simple for me.
Would you have because obviously being a big war man yourself, war film man, sorry. I just want to go, just would you have liked to have seen this in the cinemas?
Yes.
You would have, yeah.
For the battle scenes, for the gunfire sounds, all that kind of all the music in the battle and stuff. Yeah, would have loved
I
to see
reckon
this
the sound in a cinema for this probably would have
Would've been
added to
great.
it. Yeah.
So if you're if you had 5 films lined up, right, to you want to go to the movies on Saturday night, and you had like superhero blockbuster, new one out, big drama film, war film, comedy, and what else and so horror film. Would war be the first one you would choose? Obviously, you don't go to the movies as much as you would watch on home, and you got to choose one of them. Is a war film that big for you? Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, obviously it depends on the movie. If you got a kind of a thriller there,
You don't know a heap about any of them.
yeah, I'm probably seeing the thriller first,
Okay.
and then the war's probably second.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a context of how big war films are.
Yeah, I love them.
I agree with Heath. I think the action sequences were really well done, but sort of a middle of the road film. Like it wasn't excellent, but it wasn't horrible.
And I think a lot of that comes down to the story itself and how well you can tell that story with there not being enough to really talk about. So, which is why I think they had 3 battle scenes in there, because it's like, well, this is all we got. And that's why you probably didn't like the other scenes, because it just wasn't enough of a story there to really tell.
Yeah, I think it was informative. So like if you're interested
Definitely.
if you're interested in learning a little bit about history and Cold War and those sorts of things, I think it's a good film to learn a little bit about as well.
Yeah, it'd be a great movie to watch at school if you was doing history.
Definitely. Yeah.
Would have loved to watch this at school.
IMDb.
I jumped on for Bruce Bolton.
Really? To see what else he was in, or
Well, just to see his name, because he comes on screen and I'm like, oh, it's Bruce Bolton. What's his name? Because I've seen him in a few. Obviously, we're talking about the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a couple of things since Game of Thrones. And every time he's on screen, oh, it's Bruce Bolton. I'm like, I wonder what his actual name is.
He has been in a ton of things since Game of Thrones.
He has.
For like the 7th or 8th lead.
Yeah.
Like, he's just in it.
But for me, his name is just always in my head. I'm always like, oh, it's Bruce Bolton. I'm like, that's not his real name. So
what is his real
So
name?
we were just talking about him.
What is his name?
Michael Hatton.
Oh god, that doesn't even ring a bell. Like, doesn't even ring a bell.
It's Roos for me.
Yeah, I feel like
he's still Roos, but I thought, you know what? Let's actually see what this guy's name is, because he's been in a lot.
He's certainly cashing in at the moment now with getting small roles, but getting what he can.
What did you jump on for him, Jeff?
Mine was like there was no bloody actors in this film really. I didn't recognise anyone. Mine, as I said, I looked at Mark Strong after the film just to see
with
him,
hair.
because I'm like, what does he look like with hair? Because it looked really weird. And I've seen there is some roles where he's had hair and he looks more normal than he did with this. He looked awful.
Awful.
I got on the sniper. I was like, I've seen that sniper somewhere. I looked him up. His name's Sam Keeley. I'm like, I can't work out what I saw him in. And I got through and I was like, he was in Burnt with Bradley Cooper, the cooking film.
Okay. That's a good film.
Yeah, and so I was like, I looked at some shots from that film. Like, I remember him now. He's like the chef in that. So.
When I actually saw him, I looked up because I thought he looked like the dude from the Hunger Games. He's not in the first one. I can't remember what character he plays in the Hunger Games now. He's like in the second or third movie.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I thought he looked like him, and I was like, oh no, wait, that's not him. But yeah, actually, I thought he looked like him.
I can't even remember what he looks like. I'm looking it up now. Sam Keeley, you said.
Yeah. Sam Keeley.
Yeah, he's definitely Burnt. Is he in Hunger Games Heather?
No, he's not. But he looked like a guy who was. I thought.
So, have you guys got any questions that you'd like to ask? I've got a couple of questions.
I'm good.
You're good. All right. So
far away.
So one thing that really got to me was this is a story about Africa and an African community, but I feel like it was completely whitewashed. Like, we didn't hear what the locals were actually thinking. We didn't hear, all we saw was shots of dead black bodies on the field, sort of thing, and the enemies, they were really faceless. We didn't really get to meet any of those characters, so we didn't really care when they were being shot.
And that's the thing. I think they glossed over the fact that a lot of them died.
Yeah, a lot of them died.
It's also because it's made for Ireland. Like they don't care.
But you make a good point, because upon reading afterwards, there was a lot of talk about the fact that the locals were really against the UN coming in and putting their stamp on it. So, but they didn't really. They kind of mentioned it like once. That there might have been that lady.
Yeah.
Whose house he went to? Someone said something like, "Oh, you're not really welcome here."
Yeah. But yeah, I was just like, it would have been nice to even follow one of those guys, and it probably would have been, the movie would have been more impactful if you had have known or grown to know one of the people in the opposition and they died or something like that. Like, I don't know, I just felt like it was just a very white story. Like, it was just like, we're Irish, we're awesome, this is what we did, even though they killed a lot of people themselves. None of them died, but they killed a lot of people.
That's a very good point.
So we briefly spoke about this, righting a historical wrong. So the soldiers we spoke about, they weren't recognised until 2005. So 1961 to 2005.
Was it?
So that's a big difference. So I feel like that's
a lot of them would have been dead.
Exactly, and I guess that's the horrible sort of thing about some conflicts is that people don't get recognised for the work that they do, just because general populations build up this idea about they're doing the wrong thing, or they don't even get told the real story.
Yeah, exactly.
So do we think the people actually wanted to be protected? Did they need to be protected?
Well, I think there's a sense that they didn't, to be honest.
Well, they didn't want to be protected.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if the mercenaries were coming in there, so I guess they needed to.
What happened afterwards? Obviously, these guys surrendered and then left.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
It's a good question. I feel like
you didn't know whether they needed to be protected or not.
It was
mercenaries took the town.
It was on the credits at the end, and I wrote it down somewhere.
Actually don't.
And I had said that because that guy, he fled the Congo. He left Congo, and then he died.
He got found guilty because he didn't turn up to trial, and then he died.
Is that the French?
In another country. No, the
French man.
No, the Congo dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Zombe or whatever.
Yeah, So the president fled and he was convicted of treason. He died of a heart attack while under house arrest in Algeria in 1969. And it says the UN troops succeeded in 1963. And the French guy went on to become one of France's most honoured soldiers.
As well,
I guess the film doesn't really care about that. It's just about the actual siege.
The film just focuses on the siege and...
Yeah. What did you think? What did you guys think about the diplomacy, sort of the dialogue between the characters that weren't actually on the field fighting? I thought it was an overkill.
So like your Mark Strongs,
and your
UN
Bruce Boltons and all the UN guys. Like, I feel like there was a lot of heavy dialogue.
A bit too much. For me.
Probably didn't need to be there to tell the story.
I don't even know whether I just tuned out a little bit or I didn't take anything out of it. It didn't help me progress the narrative anymore.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Anything else we want to talk about before we sum up?
Not for me. No.
So let's go around the table and let's work out our ratings. What we give the film out of 5 stars on Flix Forum. MJ, go for it.
All right. It was a pretty meh kind of film.
I think that's the first time we've heard meh on this podcast.
I think it is the best way to sum it up. I didn't really feel the stakes, which is crazy in a war film. And I could barely, as I said, tell you any of the characters' names. But that aside, it was quite well shot, and I actually think it captured the story well, the problem being the story didn't really lend itself to a cinematic release. But I gave it 2.5 stars, and I would say that Jamie Dornan is probably responsible for one of those stars himself.
Good. Heater?
I really enjoyed this film. The non-battle scenes weren't great, but I thought the battle scenes were fantastic and they made up for that. As MJ said, Jamie Dornan I thought was fantastic. The movie, it's not Saving Private Ryan, it's not Black Hawk Down, but it's a pretty solid war film. I given it 3.5 out of 5.
Cool. So I thought it was an informative film. I mentioned that before. And I liked quite a lot of the action. I thought the action was good. Until about the last 15 minutes, I still didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know whether they were all going to die. I didn't know.
That's good. That's a good thing.
So I felt like that sort of bumped it up a little bit for me because that sort of held me till the end. So I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5 as well. So let's add that up quickly, Heater. What does that give us as an average?
Averages out to a 2.83 out of 5.
Okay, it's above halfway, so
Just
it's
about average.
So it's not too bad at all.
Feels like
As usual, we've got a social media question we're going to have out there this week. This one was a bit tricky to put together. I didn't really...
You're not confident every time. Every time you say, like, I'm not sure about this one,
time
and
you pull out a
follow it.
this one, not really. It's literally... So, is the UN a relevant body today still?
Ooh, okay.
So, is it something that we still need in the world today? Yeah, I've gone on...
serious.
Surely we do.
What if I had to say now, what does the UN do? What are they working on today?
Oh, don't they just make sure that the world's ticking around and keeping it at peace as much as possible?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because they do a lot of like good humanitarian work, but like in a physical sort of war sense, what do they do? So that's what we want to know. I want to know what you guys think because I don't know if this movie made them out to be like a body that actually needs to be there.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't. So as usual, we have social media and we love our social media. We're getting some good feedback on there. We're on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at FlixForum. All three. We're obviously on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to listen to our podcast, download it, subscribe.
Probably
give
listen to it now via those channels.
True, one of those channels. Hit the subscribe button. The more subscribers, the better for us. Our film next week is a 2016 mockumentary, Mascots. It's directed by Christopher Guest. It's got a pretty good cast here. So it's starring Jane Lynch, Parker Posey, Fred Willard, Ed Begley Jr., Christopher Moynihan, Don Lake, Zach Woods, Chris O'Dowd, Bob Balaban, and Jennifer Coolidge. So mockumentary. We're looking forward to having a chat about this one. So take the time, watch the film. Let us know what you think beforehand. Maybe we can include some feedback on the podcast. As usual, so good to catch up again.
Yes, always. That's part of my
It was
week.
great.
And I think
Loved it.
I think we've got a good stat about our ratings for these ones. This is probably the highest above our ones that you've given.
Oh yeah.
Is it? I
You personally.
I feel like you personally.
Okay. So what movie is this?
Siege of Jadotville.
No, sorry. What number?
This number.
It's like, have you just spaced out completely?
No. What number was it?
Whatever.
13. So I think this is the second of the 13 movies that I've given a higher rating than MJ.
Yep.
I'm not sure about you, Jesse. It's probably about the same.
But it's the first film that you've given a higher than both of us?
I feel like that.
Or you've given the highest rating?
Probably the first one I've given the highest rating to. Yeah.
So breaking ground on this.
I think it's probably a new theme. I think
This is the second week in a row I've given 3.5.
He's going to start giving big
2 weeks
scores
in a row.
from now on. Mascots next week. I got a good feeling about
Oh,
this.
the movie's getting good, so here we go.
Comedy coming along. So
Movies are getting good.
good again. All right, we will see you guys all next week.
We will.
Cheers, boys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.